Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of Secret Invasion, Betrayed. And I really enjoyed this episode because we got into more kind of information of what goes on with Nick Fury and his wife. I'm glad we got that. Nick Fury's relationship with Talos, Gravik's kind of plan, we got a lot of interesting things that started happening and going down in this episode that I think being the halfway point is going to work hopefully really well in getting us towards the end of where this season's going to go. I definitely have been enjoying this pretty much the most so far because I think it's really consistent in what it's trying to lay out and what it's trying to do. The plot, even though being more kind of a thriller and a spy kind of caper, is simple enough that it doesn't get completely bogged down into certain complexities and is able to let characters and motivations work throughout what's kind of going on in the story. So we start off in 1998 in New York, actually, and we see that Fury goes into a diner, gets a coffee and everything, and then says that he's kind of waiting for someone, and we see that he is meeting with the person that looks like his wife, Vara, and that he has been using the Skrulls as kind of his secret kind of organization. Her bringing up Tchaikovsky, who, I think I'm saying that correctly, who's linked to like Black Widow and Hawkeye, and how they've been like screwing around with him, and he's saying that he likes kind of the face that she's got. But he's got to be careful because it can't be like a subordinate and a superior kind of thing. And she's like, no, our thing's kind of outside of that kind of thing. And Fury's like, oh, okay. So let's see here. We get, let's see, how do we want to do this? Let me go with what kind of goes on with Fury, and he calls her Scylla. But she's the same kind of one that we had seen in the previous episode, so they evidently got together and Fury knew that she was a Skrull. So he doesn't really have any animosity and really became close to the Skrulls. And we see them kind of making breakfast and detailing kind of how their relationship kind of goes. And what Vara or Scylla, or however we want to kind of talk to her as, is laying down the gauntlet of kind of what's been going on, because she knew that he would go off and do things. He's a spy. He's been the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. That never really was that big of an issue for her. But when he left after the blip, because she then started to realize that she had to become who she was kind of before him and kind of remake herself, which leads to some questions of like, has she been in contact with Gravik? Is she part of Gravik's kind of whole thing? And since he's now pretty much been promoted as General of the Skrulls, what that's going to kind of do and what's that going to kind of accomplish. Because that's going to also dovetail into the next kind of bit that we're going to get into. And Fury's just trying to kind of wrap his head around and trying to understand this, and knowing that this is another kind of failure point for him. Because of his crisis of faith, he didn't do the things that he needed to do as a husband. And it's left them in this weird kind of state where they do have physical intimacy and kiss and kind of touch and everything like that, but there's other kind of aspects of like they don't really know each other. They don't know what's going on in their minds. They don't know what their goals are, if they're aligned or whatnot. It's kind of interesting because she gets a call and she kind of plays it off, and Fury's looking at it like, what should I do? And that's always a Fury kind of pain point for him, because Fury usually does some really shady shit, but if he's trying to do good, he definitely at least questions what kind of shit he would be doing, if he should be doing these kind of things. And that's why the Avengers are an interesting kind of juxtaposition for him, especially what they've kind of bring him up against and questioning of his methods, especially in the comics and everything. So we'll see how this kind of like goes about and everything, and how it works out. We also see that Gravik then brings in the council and pretty much explains to them about like how he realizes that the Avengers are a threat to their whole plans on taking over Earth and everything, and that he's pretty much trying to build a thing with a response and creating super Skrulls. And I like how this worked out. It calls attention to the whole Super Skrulls, and like if you're into the comics and everything, you kind of understand that and know where it can kind of lead. But it's not so ham-fistedly on point. It's just Gravik explaining his plans, like, listen, we want to take over this planet. We want this to be our home. The Avengers and those with superpowers are an obstacle to that. So, in response, we must create Super Skrulls of our own. And the council doesn't really get into it. This is the leader, the general, explaining his battle plan to the rest so that they can understand where he's kind of going on, as we see that the device is kind of more intact. We get more on that kind of later on. So we see that Gravik's kind of working this whole kind of thing. He's going to plan this kind of attack on a UN target. We see that in the beginning of the episode that these Beto is being set up with this kind of mission, and they're going to be on this submarine, the Neptune, from the English kind of forces. And that's important because we see that Gravik is going to be utilizing this to attack a UN plane and try and institute World War III. Now, I can understand doing those kind of things. I just would like to have a little bit more kind of an explanation, because it would be a little bit weird for an English submarine to launch an attack on a UN plane. But we learn that this isn't what we kind of think it is. Because he's also asking Gaia, how did they know about the safe house? And she pretty much thinks that she's convincing enough that the dude broke under torture and was able to kind of give them that kind of information, and that it wasn't her. And Gravik's like, alright. And that leads to his character of being like, I kind of understand, but we'll see. So he's like, tomorrow, you're with me. So we see that they get into London, and Gravik pretty much goes with his parlay for Talos. And this was an interesting one because they've got their own kind of different kind of objectives. Gravik pretty much trying to have Talos understand his point of view with utilizing this kind of museum piece, and them pretty much going off of each other in their discussion. The statesmen of World War I, and talking about how they weren't part of the fighting and they were remembered in like inks and oils, and how Gravik would rather be remembered in blood, writing history like that. And we see that because of 30 years and broken promises and betrayals, that he wants to go that route. And I think they do a fine job of setting it up. I don't agree with his methods or his methodology, but I like how they're presenting his character of understanding where he's kind of coming from. He's tired of sitting around and doing what he thinks is the beck and call of the humans, and not getting the home that was promised by Fury. Do I think that he should be doing any of this? Hell no. There are other ways to redress this, and especially talking with Fury and bringing up other kind of avenues. So they then go, and we see them kind of like doing their kind of preferences. We see that Gravik has a big kind of sweet tooth, and that he says that he usually likes a little espresso with his sugar. I wonder if it's some kind of thing within his Skrull physiology or whatnot, or if it's just an affectation that he likes sugar more than anything else. And we'll see what kind of goes on. And the thing is, Talos is calling him out on murdering innocent humans and everything, and he's like, screw that shit. I'll commit murder. I'll do what I need to get my people and everything. And that, like, I've got Guy under my thumb. He pretty much starts threatening him off the bat. He's like, and then Talos tries to kind of go at him, but we see that everybody in here is that, from that scene from the trailer, is a Skrull. That's like, shit. And Talos is just kind of just trying to pretty much think and everything what's kind of going on before he then pretty much gets to another kind of threat against Gaia, and then he just stabs him in the hand and warns him, that's the last time you say my daughter's name with your mouth. And then he walks out. And the thing is, before Gravik went in there, he talked about the Neptune making a strike on the UN plane at a certain time. And Gaia puts it into a phone and then kind of like keeps it on hold. One of the cool kind of understated kind of moments that I really liked was that Gravik's hand is stabbed. And then he pulls it out, and then we see it heal with Extremis. It was a nice, effective way to showcase that the Super Skrull program worked. Gravik now has the Extremis powers, and it's not in a showy or flashy way. It's in a nice, small kind of moment to be like, oh shit, it at least worked on him. We're going to have to see what else he can do with this. And I like that. I mean, granted, they could have waited for another opportune moment and make it big and kind of flashy, but it's enough that you like look at him and be like, oh shit, we're going to have to watch out for that. And then we see that Talos gets bumped into by this old person, and that they say that he dropped this phone, and that they hand it to him, and they go back, and we understand that it's Guy giving him the phone. And then we see that Talos is like pretty much eating pub food for breakfast, and Nick Fury comes and it's like, listen, we gotta have to deal with some shit. And Talos is like, after the conversation we had, no, you'll have to say, Talos, I need your help. I can't do this without you. And Fury, of course, is like, he walks off almost to like leave, but then we see the dire kind of situation he's in. He actually says those words back to Talos. And so they go off and they try and figure out kind of what's going on. Talos gives the rundown that there's going to be a strike and that they've got to do whatever they can to kind of stop it. So they're trying to figure out how to do that. Fury gets in contact with Sonya to try and get some information to see if she can kind of stop it. And she's like, oh, we're kind of more infiltrated than we thought. We've got leaks and shit going on. This is not good. And pretty much gives them the kind of information they need on this Commodore dude who's in charge of Commodore Robert Fairbanks. And they decide to go off, and we see that we get this whole kind of conversation with Talos as we understand Fury's relationship with the Skrulls, especially the 19 that volunteered to help him. And Talos is talking about like he doesn't really get the relationship between humans and dogs. Fury trying to be like it's man's best friend. He's like, yeah, but you're picking up poop. What the fuck? And Fury's like, I've been cleaning up your poop. And it's like, Talos is like, excuse me? And I really don't know how Fury can pretty much see it like this, but Talos is like, we've been doing all of your work. We have been the shadow network for you for years, seeing you rise up in these ranks and become this head director of S.H.I.E.L.D. And that does retcon certain kind of things. And, well, not retcon, but like show us more in-depth explanation of how Fury rose to his ranks. He is a competent spy, but he had a network outside of normal channels that could help him get information, get intel, execute on certain things. I mean, a shape-shifting network like that would definitely help him rise up. And Talos is like, fuck that noise. Fuck you for that. And then they get there. He's like, yeah, we're there. What, you want us, we to do this right now? Sure. Let's go and get this dude. As we see this commander of the captain of the sub being given the orders to launch against the UN plane. And trying to figure out how to do it, because we know that it's the Skrull infiltrator trying to egg him on, being like, these are the orders, we got to do them. So they get to the Commodore's place, and they start trying to go through stealthily at first, but Talos gets made, and then they start shooting, but the thing is we find out there's Skrulls. I'm like, god damn, Fury killed those people, but then you have to listen, because you hear the sound of them going back, because when a Skrull gets killed, they shapeshift back to their Skrull form. And then they're pretty much going through the house, and Fury's trying to get in contact with Talos. But we also see that there's a kid there playing video games. And we see that Talos pretty much is captured by the Commodore, but Fury comes in with the son, and they eventually swap people. Talos tries to calm down the kid, and the kid's just like, please don't kill my dad. And they go back in to interrogate him. They're like, we need the disarming. We need the code word to abort the missions. Like, screw you. Telling Talos that he was weak. Gravik's got more gumption to actually be the Skrull general and attack and do this kind of stuff, and it just sets Talos over, and he shoots him. And Fury has been questioning his resolve as well. And the thing is, it sucks to see Talos be at this kind of state. I applaud him trying to do things as non-violently as possible, and to not go to killing at the drop of a hat. I empathize with that. That's my kind of philosophy as well. And seeing him kind of break here, it really sucks, and I'm like, damn, I'm sorry, man, because he needs to know how to fight this enemy, and it's very fucking hard, because he understands where they're coming from, but it's the methods that they choose. They're killing people, they just want to take the planet now. It's like, there's other, better ways than this, and even though their promise has not been fulfilled by Fury, which hopefully he works on and actually does get the Skrulls a homeworld at some point. Hell, maybe Danvers pops up at some point. I mean, like, I finally found one. We'll have to see how that kind of works out. But now they have him dead. We're getting close to the strike, so he gets in contact with Gaia. She goes through and is able to find the Commodore and go through, and we see other people in their kind of mind pods. She gets him the information of Zachary, the son, and he uses it to call the abort. The captain of the sub turns it off, does it, and we're done with that. It's like, oh shit. Whew. That was kind of nuts. But we see that Talos is not feeling good about this, and let's see. It's just really kind of hard for it. It's like, damn, man. Let's see. So now that Gaia has pretty much kind of played her hand, she tries to escape the Skrull Fortress, but she gets caught by Gravik, and that we learned that this whole thing was a plot to uncover the traitor, and he shoots her, and she appears to die. She reverts back to her Skrull form. It doesn't look like she's getting back up, and it makes sense. It's like, okay, it would be kind of weird to be able to try and set off a World War III incident with a UK sub launching a strike on a UN one. There are other kind of better ways to start off that kind of World War III kind of thing. This was pretty much to put Gaia in a position where she tips her hand, proves herself to be the traitor, and Gravik's able to take care of it. Yeah, it's a very smart kind of move on Gravik's part. He's able to fool everybody to get to this kind of point. Talos will probably lose it that he has now lost his wife and daughter to this. And that could send him completely over the edge. And Fury is going to have a hard time dealing with that, because how do you deal with that with your friend? It could send him to a point where he'll just start murdering and just be like, they want to go this way, we'll go this way, and to send him into darkness. It's going to be bad. Well, hopefully he's able to win out over those kind of impulses and instead be able to have his resolve to stop them with better means rather than going to their own dirty kind of means to end this kind of thing. So we end off the episode seeing that Priscilla is contacted, and she contacts someone and has to go to her safe deposit box, and which is a swanky, gaudy room, and we see a gun, and she contacts someone who wants to get in contact with Gravik. She gets contacted. She's supposed to go to a meeting place, and there's speculation that the person is using Rhodes' voice, and that she wants to speak to Gravik, and that person's like, nah. So we'll see how this kind of works out. I didn't catch it in the episode. I've seen other places talking about it on websites or whatnot, leading more credence to the theory that Rhodey has been taken and we've got a Skrull running around. Now, granted, it could be that anytime a Skrull contacts somebody, they change their voice just to throw people off the scent or whatnot. We'll have to see how that kind of works out. And we'll have to see how deep Priscilla is in this and what her relationship is with Gravik and what she's going to attempt to do. Side with him or kill him to stop him. There's a lot of possibilities. Granted, the woman who would be married to Nick Fury would be a complicated woman. She could go either kind of way with that, because whenever you deal with Nick Fury, even though you might have the same goals, he would sometimes go in a way that just would be completely nuts to you. I mean, he went to try and blow up a fighter jet with a nuke on it with a rocket launcher. That's, granted, a desperate kind of act, but it's a man of action kind of thing. Like, I need to act, I need to do something to stop this kind of thing. And we'll have to see what is going on with Priscilla, what's going on with Fury and Talos, and how they will come together potentially to stop this, or if they will fight each other, or if some kind of thing like this will succeed, even though our heroes succeed as well. There could be scenarios where the Skrull insurrection is stopped, but things go in such a direction that we still have Super Skrulls in the wild, we still have cells everywhere. I mean, on Earth in the Marvel Comics, there are always vast kind of terror cells of Hydra, the Hand, AIM, the Serpent Society, anything and everywhere. I mean, we got introduced to the Outer Circle in Captain America's comics. That's another kind of thing with the Tithe. We've got a lot of different kind of things around the world. A Skrull infiltration sect. Staying around with superpowers would definitely be a kind of crazy thing on the field that our heroes would have to deal with in the MCU going forward in the future. We'll have to see. There's interesting possibilities, and I've been liking that. I'm thinking, oh, how is this going to go? How is this going to affect the Marvel Universe and what's going on? While also being entertained with a plot that works well and is informed by characters and how they act and what they do. So, yeah, I like this. I hope that this trend continues with the next 3 episodes and that we have a good conclusion to this, whatever that might be. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.